Hi guys, my name is EsoPa, and today we're going to be doing a video guide review of Minor Inferno with like minions, poison, not fireball this time. I think this deck is super solid. Let's take a look at it. Well, I'm going to be doing two different games. I'm going to be doing RG Furnace Lightning, which is very tough for miners in general, and then I'm going to be showing you a game against Giant Graveyard, which is seen a lot right now. This deck actually does very well against Graveyard, and I'll tell you why like really soon. But this is the deck. It's oh yeah, by the way, I know on Twitter I said I was gonna put out a minor poison cannon, but I kind of found out that the cannon just wasn't holding up to things like just Giant Graveyard was being played. I think for miners in particular that the Inferno really is too big to pass up. So the deck is Minor, Poison, Mega Minion, Ice Golem, Inferno Tower, Archers, Minions, and Zap. This deck is so good against Graveyard because it runs double defense against Graveyard. Like, it has Archers and Minions. It kind of makes it a little bit awkward when defending because because what I basically took out was Ice Spirit from Minions. And by the way, a little shout out. Final Boss Clash came into my stream and he basically just introduced this whole new world to me by adding this one card, Minions, into the deck. And he made it so that I just didn't have trouble against Graveyard anymore when I was losing to Graveyard pretty consistently. So definitely, like, thank you. I'm also gonna be putting out a 12-win like just grand challenge run with no commentary of the Hog deck that he put out too. It's very solid. But so essentially, let's try and talk about this deck a little bit. You have Minor Poison. Poison right now it still feels unfinished, but it is like all right. It is still somewhat good. The obvious benefit is that it does 10% more damage than Fireball now over a duration of time, even though it doesn't slow anything. Really good on towers. Sort of negligible on units, but the beauty in this deck is that it's very, like these minor decks are really about just adapting to your opponent, and this deck definitely has that. It has Inferno for defense. You have Ice Golem, Mega Minion for like really hard hitters. You can use Archers, you can use Minions, you can split them all up. You have Zap, you have Poison. Yeah, so let's take a look at it in game. Showing a little bit of the stats. I'm close to 150k cards won, so you know that this is definitely like viable. Here's just a little treat. I don't know, like I just did a 12-win run with this deck, so I'm gonna open it up and show you guys what I managed to get out, and then we'll be going into the games. Just want to make sure that I have the tools selected so that when we go inside, I'll be ready. Some barbs, knight, Ice Golem. This is actually a pretty good pull. It's a lot of things that I don't have and less commons. Like all of my commons can be maxed out besides Elite Barbs, although it's getting really close to it. So RG Furnace is definitely a hard matchup. RG Furnace against Minor control is in general very difficult because RG Furnace, Furnace in general for this deck is kind of hard. You have Poison now to deal with, which is a lot better than Fireball, I can tell you that. You have Archers, but Archers are not exactly the best defense because Archers can be taken out really easily. And if you overextend with this deck, which is pretty simple to do, you're gonna get punished really hard. So like we talked about when I did my Minor Inferno like Fireball control deck, you have to play very patiently with this deck too, in the same way. But I think it has a much better matchup. So in a hand like this, and then I'm gonna play slow. I drop Ice Golem. See, we're sitting at 10. I'm just kind of sitting here waiting. I drop Minor instead. Minor to the other tower. Plays Spirits. When he plays Furnace, I really don't like taking a lot of damage from the Furnace, so I think it's okay to just drop like a Ice Golem to defend. I play Poison to do damage to the Furnace and the tower. Drop Inferno Tower, and now it's up to my defense. Mostly, RGs don't, like RG furnaces don't run zap, because if they run zap, someone runs a princess, then the princess gets away with like killing off all of the fire spirits, and they can't have that. So I'm very comfortable with just dropping the Inferno Tower. I put it in this position over here because, you know, sometimes RGs run my minion. If he drops minion, if he drops RG, then he plays minion. A lot of people do that, so the minions go to the Inferno. I like to put it here so that it automatically just locks onto the RG. Other than that, he splits his archers, so I split my archers too, and I'm sitting here just watching. He plays Furnace, so I'm going to drop Ice Golem to defend this one archer, and now I'm just looking to send out Miner, probably. It's either, you know, you can make a choice here with this deck. I'm sitting at 8 Elixir, I know that he has a Furnace up, I know that he's playing RG. To properly defend an RG attack, this deck needs Inferno. That's 5 already. That's a prerequisite. You never want to try and dip below 5, or else you're in big trouble. Plus, you need to defend against whatever they put behind it, like Mega Minion. So, at the very least, I think you need comfortably around 6, 7 Elixir, maybe 8. So I'm waiting right now. I'm going to send out my Miner. And then I'm sitting here, this is the important part. I'm sitting here and waiting to see whether or not he drops something else so that I can poison. If he doesn't drop anything, I think I'm actually okay to just miner the tower and just do the damage. He does drop skeleton army, so then I poison. And I get essentially like tower damage, I get value on the furnace, and I get the skeleton army. He drops RG, but I make sure to have Inferno in my hand. I play it safe by also dropping the Mega Minion. And now we just sit back and wait, recoup our losses. I'm waiting for him to play like a Furnace over here. Okay, so he plays the Furnace. The version of this deck has archers, and archers actually do pretty well against fire spirits. Something like really niche about this that I kind of want to touch on is that, so someone in my stream actually told me that, you know, when you play archers, they're either lined up like horizontally, like this, or they're kind of lined up a little bit vertically like this. The difference, like, if you've ever played archers and then like 2 fire spirits are running at you, and then sometimes your archers get hit by the fire spirits or sometimes it doesn't, it's actually because if an archer is horizontal, like completely horizontal, the fire spirits don't hit the archers. But if they're like a little bit vertical and one archer's ahead of the other one, then the fire spirit, like the last one, will contact the archer first, and then it gets hit. I found that defending against a furnace, the best place to put your archers is right on this tile, right here, and your archers will never get hit by the fire spirit. So I put them over there every single time. You know, reversal, it would be like right here. It's the farthest tile and like 1 tile up from your crown tower. And you know, the archers live. They're completely horizontal, as you can see. They're not getting hit by the fire spirits. During that time, I send the miner. A lot of your damage will come from just like playing miners. There's no point in playing. There's no point in playing poison when the furnace is really low. So I just let the Mega Minion kill off my miner. I'm playing 3 for his 3, but I'm also attacking the side that he doesn't want me to attack. Like, he's been playing RG into this lane, into this left lane every single time. So I'm dragging this Mega Minion away from him. You know, like this push that he's doing would look infinitely more scary if he had Mega Minion behind it. So I'm sitting at 9 Elixir because I'm being very proactive. Like, I'm being very safe about my Elixir bar, and I drop Inferno. I switch up the positioning of it again because I've been putting it to the bottom left over and over. He has lightning, so I drop Mega Minion, I drop archers as a response, and I take pretty minimal damage. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to send out Miner. Oh, by the way, like, oh, my alarm. I completely skipped over the other part, like on the right side, which is why like he took a lot of damage. But to recap, I played. I mean, let's take a look at it. Let's just take a look at it. Being aware of both sides. This Mega Minion, I know for a fact, will kill off any amount of minions if the minions are alone. So I am sitting at 10. The RG isn't quite at my tower yet, so I know I want to spend Elixir. So I play the Ice Golem right here, and I drop Inferno, then I drop Ice Golem. He forgets about the 2 minions on the side, and while I'm defending the RG, this Ice Golem is actually being targeted by the tower. 2 minions get on the tower, and 2 minions force out Fire Spirits, which puts additional damage on his tower. And now I can send out a Miner. He plays a Furnace, and now I know that all I have to do is like defend against his next few RGs, and I can finish out the game with like pretty just safe Miner poisons. I know that he can lightning it, and I'm being very wary of this. So what I do is I play a Mega Minion up front, and this Mega Minion is actually like he cannot play lightning, so he hits all 3 of this. This range is too big, so he has to make a choice. Does he hit the Inferno and the Mega Minion, or does he hit the Inferno and the tower? He decides to hit the tower and the Inferno. So I send out the Miner. I know he has Scar Me. I hover zap over it, like every single time I hover zap over it. Then I poison. His tower is at 230 something, right? Dude, actually I think it was exactly 232. Because poison got a 10% increase, usually, you know, in the past poison would have done 220. Now it does 230, and it actually is just enough that I take down his tower. One more tick. And that's it. So against RG Furnace, so important to stay above like your threshold for defending against RG attacks. If you overextend against RG with this deck, you're going to take a lot of damage, and it's not going to be pretty. This deck doesn't do very well from behind because it's so chippy that, and like you're going to, I think you should be comfortable because this deck runs a lot of filler cards like Minion, Archers, Ice Golem, Mega Minion, like a lot of support cards. Your main win condition is the Miner. That you have to be very comfortable with just playing cards defensively and just watching what they do, and then reacting on the fly. These chip decks are really based on a lot of adaptability and, you know, making informed decisions. Like, not every decision has to be correct, they just have to be logical. I never really dipped below a point where like his RG got in. Like, I always had Infernos, I always knew what he could and cannot do, and I would counterattack with Miners on his tower. I wouldn't Miner poison just blindly, I would wait, like I did when he played Skeleton Army, then I would poison. So I played very carefully there, and I took away the W. And this next game is Giant Graveyard, which a lot of you guys have probably seen in Grand Challenge runs. There's a ton of it. So this deck actually does very well against Graveyard because you have 2 answers. I think Minion is actually the best answer to Graveyard in the game if it's not attended to. If it's not being fireball, if it's not being arrowed. Because minions are not touched, you know, they can't be attacked by skeletons because they're in the air. They do really high damage. When you know they have Graveyard, you just put one of your counters down. Say they Graveyard you, you put minions. They fireball it, then you drop archers, and the Graveyard doesn't do any damage. If what I've learned is if, like, say they have freeze. If they have freeze, I want to go through this because I had a replay of me beating freeze with this deck, but it kind of died away. But I want to touch on this point. before we go on to this, because this is Giant Fireball. Giant Fireball Graveyard. I think learning about Freeze Graveyard is pretty important too. So let's say he puts Giant here, right? It walks in. Let's say Giant. I play Inferno Tower here. The Giant walks in. Then he graveyards. Actually, no, that's not right. What the hell am I thinking? Giant Graveyard Giant Graveyard Freeze doesn't exist. It's like Bowler Mega Minion in Freeze, right? I'm sure a lot of you guys have lost to that. So let's say a Bowler walks in here. You play Inferno. He plays Graveyard. So you drop Archers, right? You drop Archers. Archers will start attacking. Then he freezes. This is the point where this is what I've learned the order of what to do here. So your Archers are frozen, right? Let's say your hand is Zap, Ice Golem, Zap, Ice Golem, Minion, and I don't know, you just played Inferno, right? So you have Miner. Let's say Miner. As soon as he freezes, you have to zap, drop minions. Like zapping I think is key. You first have to zap no matter what. Zap your tower, drop Ice Golem and minions at the same time. Or you can just drop minions, honestly. If you zap. It clears everything away, the freeze gets nothing, and then you can counterattack. So I just wanted to touch on freeze, because I think that's pretty important. So let's get onto this game. 10 Elixir, I drop Mega Minion as normal. So I'm watching him. He plays Giant. So I'm going to do a little mini push. I drop minions, I drop Miner. He shows me Fireball. So I'm thinking like, okay, this is Giant Fireball. Alright, this could be this could be Graveyard. I drop Inferno Tower. And he doesn't do anything here because there's, I mean, he zaps. I really think that this zap was pretty bad, honestly, because this Giant wasn't going to get through in any way. It was alone. It didn't have a Mega Minion behind it. So I'm sitting back now, and I'm waiting on my Elixir at 10. I'll probably just drop Archers in the back. Splitting Archers is, I think, you know, a good Elixir sync. He plays Tombstone, so I play Mega Minion, and then I attack with Miner. And as we did before, I'm going to not just drop Poison. I'm going to see what he has. If he plays Mega Minion plus this Tombstone, then I'll poison it. If he plays Archers plus the Tombstone, then I poison it. If he drops Scar Me, then I poison it. He drops something, so I poison it. I get a hit on this tower. I take out the Tombstone. He's sitting at 10. This is kind of dangerous for me. I drop Inferno. Now I have no Elixir. I mismanaged my Elixir by also dropping this Mega Minion. As you remember, I played Mega Minion plus Miner plus Poison. Because I didn't have Miner, I wanted to get to the Miner. So that was an overextension. But, you know, I do some damage control here. I know that at most I'm going to have 2 Elixir to defend this. So my option is either to zap the Graveyard or to play Ice Golem. I let it pile up. I let the Graveyard pile up, then I zap. And then I drop Ice Golem so I don't take additional damage. I am taking additional damage, but not as much as I could. So now things are a little bit dicey. He doesn't have anything to attack me with. I know that the Giant is out of his cycle because he just played it. I know that Giant Graveyard is out of his cycle. He has to play 2-3 cards in order to get back to that point. Plays Tombstone. So now I send out the Miner. And I do the same thing. Except this time I'm not like overextending by adding in another like Mega Minion to the push. Miner, Poison, that's 7. I drop Inferno all the way up so that my Archer Tower, hopefully, my Archer Tower targeted the giant anyways, but it's fine. Because I didn't play an additional 3 elixir with that minor poison push that I just did, I have enough to play Inferno plus 1 defense against Graveyard. I have minions on the board. He fireballs me instantly as I see that fireball. I know that I'm going to drop archers. And if you really want to be safe, you can also drop Ice Golem. But I don't think you need to. Because this giant isn't... Well, I drop both of them just to be safe. But you don't really have to. I send out the miner again. And I poison right away. Because I know that his giant graveyard is out of his cycle. He can't punish me just right then. But I know that he can do it now. But I'm sitting at 10 comfortably. I drop Inferno. I play Mega Minion. And I know that I can afford minions if he graveyards right now. And I can afford Zap. I can afford everything for my defense. So I'm not afraid. His tower is 63. So all I have to do is just defend right now. I think he fireballs me, so then I immediately drop archers. And all of his damage is gone, so now, in the last 5 seconds, I'm going to poison him. And I take the win. So it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty cool. You know. So with this deck, you can do some pretty funky things. Like, if you want to talk about like all of the different moves that you can make, you have pushes with like minor minion. You don't ever really want to open up with this because that's 6, and then it kind of tells away your strategy. But you know, Ice Golem can be played in front of like any surviving units and it instantly becomes a counter push. You have minor poison. That's a push. In the beginning of games, you can play archers at the back and just split the archers. It's a good way to spend 3 elixir without committing to anything. You can also split your minions in the early game. Oh my god. Can't write. Minion. Ugh. Minion. The reason why I run Zap over Log here is that you have a lot of counters to deal with Princess anyways. You don't need Log, I think. If someone has Scar Me and you send out Minor, like a lot of your damage comes from Minor. So I think Zap is just super important for dealing with that. It's also instantaneous and deals with air, so it's pretty important for me. Yeah, just like don't be afraid to push into other lanes with this deck too. If you say you're playing against like a beatdown deck, like a giant beatdown deck, giant graveyard deck, he plays giant, just counterattack the other lane. Even if you already have damage on the other lane, like on the lane that he's pushing. If you attack into the giant lane, it's just you're just kind of feeding into him over and over again, and it just makes his push bigger. So don't try and not do that. Don't really like overextend with poison. As you saw like in the last game against giant poison, I mean giant graveyard, I did overextend with poison because I also I played what? If we go back to the replay, I played minor, that's 3. I played Mega Minion, that's 3, and then I poison, that's 4. That's 10 right there. And I got damage on this tower, right? But our elixir was like crazy different. I could only afford an Inferno tower and then like barely afforded a Zap. But he had enough to giant and graveyard, which was 10 because I had overextended to play Mega Minion. In the early game, it's much easier to just play minor plus poison. Or like you have to kind of decide. You have to kind of choose. Or like minor plus Mega Minion. To play all 3 is pretty bad, and that's why it looked like I had to take a really bad trade there. Is there anything else when it comes to the deck? You know, I think I showed you guys probably 2 of like the hardest matchups. Another I forgot about this. So another hard matchup for this deck is the 2.8 Hog deck, because the 2.8 Hog deck can outcycle the crap out of this deck. You know, like originally this minion was Ice Spirit. And this deck, if the minion is not if the minion is Ice Spirit, then the 2.8 Hog deck, like you can keep up with it. But this, because you're running minions too, it becomes really difficult. Like he can do multiple pushes on you really fast, and he'll like just outcycle the crap out of your Inferno. So you have to play like super careful. I might just do like a replay analysis of that once I meet like a 2.8 Hog deck and talk about it. You have to play super tight. Other than that, we showed RG Furnace. I think Lava Hound is very easy with this because you have poison, you have like literally every card but the miner does super well against Lava Hound, so don't worry about that. Graveyard is very easy if you understand how to utilize these two counters and then also control your Elixir. Trying to think of like popular meta decks. Golem is easy too because Golem is so slow. You can just play like miner minion and just take out a tower. Yeah, okay. So if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and you know, put down in the comment below like what kind of decks you want to see later. I'm gonna be putting out a 12-win GC of the Hog Rider deck that Final Boss Clash gave me with no commentary. I'm just gonna show you guys gameplay from like I don't know how many GC challenge wins to like 12. All right. So thank you, and I'll see you guys later.